Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of Bayou Bets. Zach Ewing and Jim Derry here with you from the NOLA.com studios and on the Bayou Bets YouTube channel. We have a lot to talk about. It's NFL schedule release day, and that means it's also NFL betting line release day, Jim. So lots to talk about in the betting world. Got some cool Saints news for you today, too. NBA playoffs picks, lots of stuff going on.
You know, I bash on social media quite a bit here and there, but, it's days like this where social media make things worth it because, we're getting a glimpse of the Saints schedule drip by drip before the release comes out. And I don't know why we need to make this some huge thing. So I'm glad that we're getting it before everybody else. Hello, Jerry.
Jerry's here. Schedule's well. So that's what Jim's talking about. The schedule is officially here at 7 o'clock tonight, and it's like a 3-hour release show. But
God.
Twitter has actually
That's
made
insane.
it like a 12-hour release show because you just get one game here, and 20 minutes later you get another game, and you kind of piece it together, and you think, okay, well, that means this is going to happen, and that means this is going to happen. And so we're going to be going through what we know of the Saints schedule, what we absolutely know, and then what we can kind of conjecture based on that as well. And then we're going to talk some betting lines. I had a chance to sit down with Derek Carr yesterday, the Saints quarterback, part of a cool new feature that we're going to be doing at NOLA.com. And so we're going to play a clip of that for you. And we've got NBA playoff picks. So it's going to be a good show. Latest Jerry says Saints at Packers week.
We got a few more than that.
Yeah, we got a few more.
I think we have 8 of them so far.
Subscribe to the Bayou Bets YouTube channel if you can. If you haven't already, we appreciate that. It helps us out, and hit the like button for us as well. If you're watching on the NOLA.com YouTube channel, that's totally cool, or on Facebook. But head on over to Bayou Bets and give us a like, a subscribe if you would at some point during the show. As we start every day, we'll start with headlines. We know for sure that the Lions and the Chiefs is going to be the NFL opening game. That one is the NFL is actually officially given that the blessing. So the Lions hype is through the roof, Jim.
It's really ridiculous. I mean, to be honest, we're putting the Lions on they had no primetime games at all last year. So they go from no primetime games to playing in the opener on Thursday night against the defending Super Bowl champions, which is absurd. And I think the Lions hype is going to be kind of like, maybe it will definitely be more than the Saints hype from last year, but I think so many people, there will probably be 80% of bets made on totals with the Lions on the over. Now they have a fairly easy schedule. We're going to get to like strength of schedule because we did a big thing on bet.nola.com yesterday, but I think their hype is way off the chain.
Yeah, it's we'll see, but I think that's one of those teams you got to fade if you're looking at it. Other headlines, and I just realized I screwed this up. I've been in kind of a hurry today, all week really, but the last one's not accurate. LSU baseball is at home against Mississippi State. So if you're heading out to Alec Box this weekend, if you have tickets, don't have a heart attack. I screwed that up. They are at home against Mississippi State. So the Saints signed Foster Moreau yesterday, which was a little bit of a surprise given that Foster Moreau has cancer.
Yeah.
Non-Hodgkin's lymphoma to be specific, but he's been given a really good prognosis. Saints signed him. And we also, now this one's not official and it hasn't really been confirmed by anybody, but by process of elimination, we can kind of tell you that the Saints are almost certainly going to open up with the Tennessee Titans at the Superdome.
Yeah, I think we know. Yeah, I mean, again, process of elimination. We know that because we know when they are playing certain teams and when they aren't, and also by other teams' schedules. So that's how we fairly know. I think there's a 98% chance that is who the Saints will open up with, the Tennessee Titans at home. And it's kind of a little bit like last year's schedule. A little weird. They're going to have. We know that they're going to have 3 home games in a row towards the latter part of the season. We know that they're going to have weeks 2 and 3 are going to be on the road at Carolina. That's going to be on a Monday Night Football. Carolina's opener. So there are some things that are as easy as the schedule is for the Saints. We're going to talk about this. And potentially maybe the easiest schedule in franchise history going into a season. That doesn't mean when the season's over, you may look back and you can do the wins and losses, and it may not be as easy as we think it is. But going by what we did with our strength of schedule is we put a formula together based off of Caesar Sportsbook win totals. So we came up with this formula. Basically, I took the projected wins. We factored in the juice on the over and the under on the win totals, and then whether you were playing a team at home or away. And the Saints had the easiest schedule by that formula in the NFL. If you base it off of last year's win totals, they're the second easiest. So either way, the Saints have either the easiest or one of the easiest schedules in the NFL. But that doesn't mean, look, when you put this thing together and you give them interesting caveats. So the Saints going to be the home opener for Carolina. They're going to be the home opener for Green Bay. So the Saints will play 3 consecutive home openers to start the season. Their own, Carolina's on a Monday Night Football with Bryce Young, and Jordan Love's debut as starting quarterback for the Packers. The Packers will open up on the road with 2 straight road games. So that will be their home opener as well. So an interesting start. You know, my son, know-it-all son says, that's so super easy. Wow, it can't get any easier than that. I completely disagree. Playing Derek Henry to start off the season and then playing 2 home openers against 2 teams that I think may be better than people think. They're definitely going to be 2 overs I'm going to be looking at when we talk about win totals going forward. So this is not, as far as the overall potential, the schedule, sure, it could be the easiest in the NFL. But to me, that's pretty tough to start off. A lot tougher than I think people are giving credit for.
Yeah, I saw someone out there on in the Twitter universe say that they thought the Saints would either start 3-0 or 0-3, no in between. And I couldn't disagree. I think they will almost certainly start in between those 2 things. They will either be 1-2 or 2-1 after 3. I mean, look, because those are not gimme games. Now we think the Saints are going to be pretty good. They're going to win one of those games. I would if they don't, there will be panic across South Louisiana. But I don't think they're going to win all 3 of them. Not with 2 road games. As you mentioned, home openers, high emotion games. We do have Brooke Kirchhofer of WWL has confirmed Titans is the week 1 opener. So we have that confirmed now from a reputable source. So that's the 7th one. We'll try to get this updated. But we also have a couple of others that just kind of by conjecture, we're pretty sure. There's a report out there, maybe not quite as lock solid, that week 14 will be the Panthers at home.
Yeah.
My guess is,
that's a 3-game home stretch.
Yeah, so that would make 3 straight home. Week 13, who do we
Lions.
say week 13 at home? The Lions. That's another report. The Lions at home. Again, not confirmed. And then if you look at, okay, they're at home to open and then 2 straight road games. This is just us totally speculating now, Jim. But week 4, you almost figure is going to be at home. You usually play at least. Yeah, you usually play 2 division games pretty early. So we're just going to guess. This is a total guess, but maybe Bucks at home in week 4.
Yeah, and I don't think there's a decent chance you'll get 3 road games at home. Now we know they're going to be on the road week 16 and 17, which for the second straight year, they'll be on the road Christmas and New Year's. I mean, that's Sunday. Now my guess is they'll play Christmas Eve games on Saturday, so everybody will probably play on the 23rd, but still coming home. Well, not everyone. There'll be some games on Sunday, but if you look at it, it's most likely going to be on the road for week 16 and 17, Christmas and New Year's week. Second straight year. I think that's kind of weird that they would do that. Again, I know they don't go back and look and see, what did we do to you last year? Computers spit things out and they make things work schedule-wise. But, that's something to look at later on too. So you're going to have – there's also a stretch in the middle of the season where you're going to play – it looks like you're going to play like a bunch of games like after the second half of the schedule at home. So which means I think the early part of the schedule, the Saints going to be on the road a lot. So that's going to tell us a good bit about this team. So when you're talking easy schedule, just because it's easy by formula wise or last year's win total, or however you want to look at it, when it's constructed a certain way, maybe it's not going to be as easy as we thought it was going to be.
Well, I mean, the other part of this, Jim, and we're going to talk about your strength of schedule metrics that you did for just looking at win totals, because I think that's the smartest way to do it. But you don't always know. Like you look at a game like Minnesota, right? Like that week 10 game at the Vikings. Sounds like a tough game. That team won 11 games last year. They won 13 games last year. They may not be that good. I mean, you just don't know. And conversely, a team like Atlanta may be much better than we think.
Or Minnesota Carolina has a really tough schedule, by the way.
Yeah, and so you look at these games and say, oh, well, that's going to be a real easy stretch where they play Atlanta, Tampa Bay, and Indianapolis. Well, who's to say that one of those teams isn't going to be a lot better than people think?
Right.
And by the time, just like Seattle last year, Seattle at home looked like an easy game. By the end of the year, that was one of the Saints' best wins because Seattle ended up being a playoff team. So that's going to happen too. And the NFL changes so much year to year. We just don't know. But let's talk about what you found out looking at win totals and what that tells us. Because you can look at last year's record if you want. To us as betting people, right? Like the more interesting way to do this is to look at win totals and what Vegas is telling you about how good these teams will be.
100%. I mean, the sports books know, right? There's a reason why they don't lose. And, I'm going to be on 4th Down and 4 on Sunday. We talked. That's why Doug Mouton had me on, actually. That's what we're talking about. Strength of schedule and over under wins 9.5. So I spent a little over a day going into this using a formula, plugged it into a Excel spreadsheet and came out with some interesting numbers. A lot of these teams were pretty close to what their strength of schedule was based off of last year's wins. A couple of them were a little bit different. And what we did was we took the formula of whatever Caesars Sportsbook says their win total was. Like for the Saints, it's 9.5. Okay. And then you maybe subtracted a 1/10 of a point for every bit of juice, every dime of juice. So in other words, the Saints, let's just say the Saints are a plus 100. They're even money to bet at 9.5. That would make them a 9.4. So then we plug them into this formula and come up with these numbers. And at the end of it, whatever the rating was is basically the number of wins expected for all of that team's opponents. And the Saints had the easiest schedule with a 7.66, meaning that if you take their expected win total of the Saints opponents, it comes out to 7.66. And if you think about it, 8.5 is 500. So almost a full game below 500 is the expected win total for the Saints opponents. And conversely, the toughest schedule in the league by this formula are the New England Patriots have a 9.19. So they are at 9.19, almost, you're talking 0.6 over 500. So the Patriots and Bills have a really tough schedule. According to this, Kansas City is number 3, and you can go on down the list. You can find it on bet.NOLA.com, and we spent a lot of time with this and had fun with it. But again, when you talk about the Saints schedules, I like to look at the quarterbacks. And Zach, you and I have talked about this. And who the quarterbacks are that the Saints play? Home and away, Atlanta, Desmond Ridder. Carolina, Bryce Young. Tampa Bay, Baker Mayfield. I mean, so that's 6 games right there against those 3 quarterbacks. And then at home, you got Justin Fields, Jared Goff, Trevor Lawrence, Ryan Tannehill, and Daniel Jones. I mean, no one that scares. So you could say Justin Fields scares the hell out of you. Okay, fine. You get him on the turf of the dome.
He's scary, but is he good? Right?
Yeah, right. Exactly. And then on the road, exactly. So on the road, you get Green Bay, Jordan Love. Houston, is it C.J. Stroud or Davis Mills? We don't know. We don't know when they're going to play Houston. Anthony Richardson, most likely for Indianapolis.
Also scary, but
you don't know.
Yeah.
Kirk Cousins, sometimes good, sometimes not so good. Matt Stafford. Whoa, we hope Minnesota game is not on a Sunday, right? At noon. Matt Stafford and Mac Jones, and we don't know what's going on with Matt Stafford. So, I mean, that right there will tell you that, I mean, that is not a gauntlet of top quarterbacks the Saints are going to play. And arguably, you could argue that the best quarterback to play in any of those games is Derek Carr. I mean, you could make an argument that's the case.
You could argue it. Yeah, you could certainly.
I'm not saying it is, but you could certainly make an argument that's the case.
Yeah. So we have 7 confirmed games now. Added the Titans to that graphic down there. A couple other quick things on the Saints before we kind of move on.
Zach, I think we have 8
on the show. What is the 8th one I'm missing on that graphic there?
Let's see. You got 1, 2, and 3, and then you got. Actually, I think we have 9 because week 12 is at Falcons, 13 Lions, 14 Panthers, 15 Giants, and 18 is Falcons. So I don't know.
Okay, so I don't believe that the Lions and Panthers home game have been like confirmed by beat reporters, right? Like they're out there, but those are more rumors at this point. So we don't. Okay. That's the standard I'm going with. But those are the 7 that have been lock solid confirmed.
Gotcha.
Also, there's a report out there that when the Saints play the Jaguars at home, whenever that will
Thursday night
be,
football.
that will be a Thursday night game. So we know
And I
they'll
think
play
that's
Monday Night Football week 2 and a Thursday night game against
and
Jacksonville.
that sounds like it would be in the first half of the season, the Thursday night
Yeah.
game.
Just by process of elimination, I was thinking Jacksonville is week 8, 10, or 11. It has to be one of those three. A couple of other quick things on the Saints before we move on. We asked you guys on Monday who the most impactful Saints draft pick would be. And this is about the most even poll we've done, Jim. Isaiah Foskey, the leader, but 33% Kendra Miller, 29%. Brian Bresee, actually the first round pick, third on the list. And about an eighth of you still said, hey, it's going to be somebody else like A.T. Perry.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't surprise me that this is mixed because there have been so many mixed reactions on this. My vote is Kendra Miller because when it comes down to it, no matter, even if you like those other guys or even picked other, I don't know who you would, maybe A.T. Perry, I guess would be the pick if you picked other. I think Miller is going to play a large role in this offense early on because we have to expect that Alvin Kamara is going to be gone for maybe half a season. So that's something else you got to look in this schedule as well, because with Alvin Kamara being gone. So I think you would see a ton of Miller early on to help Derek Carr as much as he can.
Well, one thing I mentioned that I failed to mention here is that you look at those first 3 games. We know the Titans with Derrick Henry, Panthers, Bryce Young is going to be his second ever game. Matt Rule likes to run the ball anyway. Well, he's not the coach there.
I was to say, I don't think they care what Matt Rule thinks. Frank Reich likes to do a lot of things.
Frank Reich, yeah, that may be an exception, but the Packers with Jordan Love, a young quarterback, and obviously talented running backs, A.J. Dillon there too. The Saints' run defense, which was a weak point last year, it's going to get tested right away in those 3 games.
For sure. And that's where Brian Bresee and Isaiah Foskey come in, right? Is Peyton Turner going to be healthy? So, yeah, you will learn a lot. What's the linebacking core going to look like now that Caden Ellis is gone? Lots of things you're going to learn early on in this season for sure.
All right. Well, speaking of the season, we have a cool new feature to talk about. We put it in the description of the video, so I guess we better get to it now, almost 20 minutes in. I am going to be talking with Derek Carr every week during the season, and it's not always going to be on video just because of Derek's availability. It may be a walk and talk sort of thing or sitting down while he's having lunch sort of thing. But we will put the question and answers, the transcript of Derek's exclusive interview with us in every week's Advocate and Times Picayune. I think it's going to be on Fridays and also on NOLA.com. So looking forward to that. We did record a quick video yesterday to kind of introduce the concept to people. And so we're going to play a quick clip of that. You can find the full video on the NOLA.com YouTube channel. We'll put it up on the Bayou Bets YouTube channel as well later today. So here's a quick clip of just a couple minutes of me talking to Derek yesterday.
Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Derek Carr. I'm here with my good friend Zach Ewing, who I've known for a long time with the Times Picayune and NOLA.com, and we got a cool project that we're working on.
Now, I know Derek's new to New Orleans, but he's not joking. We actually have known each other for a long time, going back to Derek's high school days in California. And our project this year will be to bring you a weekly one-on-one exclusive interview between me and Derek, and you can only get the answers on NOLA.com or in that week's Advocate and Times Picayune. So, Derek, the idea of this is we get to ask you all tough questions. We get to ask you some easy questions. We'll ask you whatever we want, and hopefully the answers will be a little bit more in depth than they would be in a press conference setting. So let's get started. Let's do a little preseason Q&A here. Yep. What brought you to New Orleans? That's the question on everybody's mind.
You know, it's definitely the family atmosphere, not just inside the building, but everywhere around town. You know, when I came on my little visit, you know, when they didn't know if I was traded or not traded, all these kind of things, what was going to happen. The Southern hospitality that I was so used to in Houston and really in the Central Valley of California, you know, I just fell in love with the people of New Orleans. And I remember telling my wife, I was like, I want to win for these people. You know, I want to win for this community. And I fell in love.
That's convenient because that's what the people want too. So you're at a little bit of a crossroads in your career. I don't know that you thought you'd be with a new team even a year ago. So this is different. How have you adjusted and what are you really focused on in the offseason?
Well, it has been new. You know, I did not ever think this day would come, but it happens. You know, it's professional football. It's professional sports. It happens. And, what an amazing situation that I was able to be a part of here, and to, be a part of this team. Although when I walk and I look down and there's gold on the ground, I think I'm in the wrong place. I'm getting used to the gold. It's always been silver and black for me. But I think it was just the team, just taking me in and saying, just be you. I get to come in here and I don't have to create a culture. The culture's been created here for the last 20 years. I get to come in and just step in and just be myself and try and be a great teammate and help serve any way that I can.
So that was Derek
good stuff.
yesterday. Yeah, you can see the full video again on the NOLA.com YouTube channel, and we'll put it up on the Bayou Bets YouTube channel as well here shortly. So, yeah, I mean, look, Derek, as he mentioned, I've known him since he was in high school, since he was 17 years old. And I was only 23 at the time. So it's not, we were both kids just about.
Yeah, well, I covered Peyton Manning back in high school. That's how old I am.
Yeah, there you go. So you and Peyton video series coming up next. But the, look, Derek, as anybody can tell, he's personality-wise a little bit like Drew Brees, in that it's just hard to find a fault with the guy. Very friendly, very outgoing, family-oriented.
Fits the Saints mold, doesn't he?
Yeah, easy to root for.
Yeah, he fits the Saints mold. I mean, that's the Saints. We talk about it, and you can criticize it or say it's a good thing or whatever you want to call it, but the Saints have a mold of a kind of player that they go for, both size and personality traits, and it showed up in the draft, and it shows up when they go into free agency. And, when you look at the draft and you look at Brissett and Isaiah Foskey, Isaiah Foskey, for God's sake, 15 minutes after he was picked in the second round by the Saints, he was at his friend's grandpa's bedside because the grandpa was terminally ill, and he left his own draft party to go hang out with his friend's grandpa because he's about to pass away. So, that's just who the Saints draft. They just draft those kind of guys, and usually works for them. We'll see if it continues.
Go after him in free agency as well, obviously.
100%.
So, yeah. So that will be a weekly feature we will do during the season. Again, most weeks I think it's just going to be a Q&A in print and on the website. It won't be an actual video. But when it is, we'll certainly show it to you on Bayou Bets as well, and kind of get Derek's take one-on-one on what's going on in the season. Of course, he talks to the press anyway, but it's you get a little bit more personal, as you can see in these videos.
Sure.
So, okay, moving on to the rest of what we know about the NFL schedule. As we mentioned at the top, the NFL has. Look, we knew the Chiefs were going to be at home for the opener, Jim. There was a lot of possibilities. They could have chosen Sean Payton and the Broncos to go. Could have been Justin Herbert, the Chargers. Could have been a Super Bowl rematch with the Eagles, Bills, and Bengals. Like, Kansas City's got an unbelievable home schedule. I go with the Lions.
I find it supremely odd that if you're going to pick an interconference game for the Chiefs, that it's not the Eagles. Why wouldn't you do Chiefs Eagles in week one?
Yeah.
If you're not going to do that, then why wouldn't you go with a division opponent, or at least I don't know where they play Buffalo this year. I don't remember. It's at
home. Yeah, it's in Kansas
Okay,
City.
so why not
now,
do
Buffalo
that?
played the opener last year against the Rams, so you don't maybe want to do that twice in a row.
Yeah,
I understand that, but
I don't know. There's just so many teams you could have picked other than the Lions. I think maybe they're going to try to hype up the Lions as much as they can early on, and before they realize that the Lions aren't as good as everybody thinks they are. Because I don't think they're as good as everyone. I don't think they're going to be as good as everyone thinks they are. I think they're going to be decent, and everyone's crowning them to be the NFC North champion. And as you know,
cue Jenny Green.
Yeah, you want to crown their asses. Whatever. Whatever. I still think the Vikings are better than the Lions, and I think the Packers are about what and what. I get that you lose Aaron Rodgers, but to me, Aaron Rodgers wasn't what Aaron Rodgers has been last year. I would take either one of those teams before I take the Lions this year.
I kind of think, what Jerry said, his reaction, I think, is a lot of American, like, Lions and Chiefs.
For sure.
But part of this is too, maybe it's just the NFL playing chess while everybody else plays checkers again.
Yeah.
Everyone watches the opener anyway, right? So why not have another huge ratings game, and then later on, Eagles, Chiefs, Bills, Chiefs, Bengals, Chiefs, Chargers, Chiefs. These games are all going to get huge ratings anyway. So now they've got huge ratings for Lions, Chiefs when that game otherwise would have been a noon game and kind of lost in the shuffle in October or something.
Or maybe they're throwing him a bone. As we said earlier, remember, the Lions had 0. You know how hard it is these days to get 0 primetime games? It is really hard not to get at least one. That means you weren't even on Thursday Night Football, which there were, let's face it, we joked, Zach, for about 3 or 4 weeks in a row last year, where how awful Thursday Night Football was for a stretch of games last year. It was pretty darn bad. You didn't freeze up, did you? I think Zach might have froze up here, so which means I'm gonna. There we go. Now you're back. All right.
I thought it was you, and then it ended up being me. So,
but what I was saying was, remember last year when we talked about that? I mean, how hard is it to not even be on Thursday Night Football? You go through that stretch. Remember when we were talking about last year about? I think there was a 3-week stretch where there were 30 combined points scored on Thursday Night Football. It was something really bad.
Yeah, well, it's the Lions are the only, I guess the Cowboys technically, but they'll never keep the Cowboys off primetime. But because the Lions have that Thanksgiving home game, everybody has to have a Thursday game, but the Lions have the Thanksgiving one, so they don't have to give them another one. They're like the only team that could happen to. Anyway, it'll be interesting. I think Kansas City, if I'm betting now, and I don't know if I want to bet a point spread this early, but Chiefs -7 is looking kind of juicy. I know that's a lot of points. Kansas City's going to win that game. They're not losing at Arrowhead home opener.
Well, that kind of goes into what I wanted to say about all this. I mean, it's I think when the schedule comes out, the thing that I would take out of all this is I would go through it, and we may do this, and we may do this early next week, as a matter of fact. But I think that get your preliminary takes on not just the schedule. Go ahead and use the strength of schedule. Go open up the strength of schedule on Bayou Bets and what the books think, and then take the schedule and go through it and see what you think, at least for the first half of the season. If you like some over-under totals, you need to bet them now, especially if you're going to bet an over, because most of those numbers don't change. I mean, they change towards the over. In other words, the Saints at 9.5 now, they have some wiggle room, so they're probably not going to go to 10, but that's a bad example. But if you look at a team like the Bills or the Jets or the Chiefs, the big name teams, if you like those overs, and I'm not telling you should or you shouldn't, but those numbers are going to change towards the side you don't like. Just like last year when the Saints were 7.5, we saw it go as high as 9 at one point. And so you were an absolute loser. Now I got it at 7.5. Turns out we all lost, right? But we had a chance to win that bet going into the last game of the season. Whereas if you got 8.5, which is what most people got because you didn't bet it in May, then you were a certain loser. So, and I think a lot of these close ones, again, overs you need to bet now. Unders, maybe you can wait a little bit, but do your research now. Figure out what you like now. I'm not saying go and make 32 bets on over-unders in May, but pick out 2 or 3 that you really like and bet them now, because if you really like them, they're probably going to change against your favor as we go along, because the sharps pound these things over the first week or two, and those numbers are going to change by probably June 1.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And I mean, it's interesting to see how they will change, because it can kind of give you an idea. Of course, last year there was line movement on the Saints, as you said, and it ended up not being right. Over under on the weight of the Chiefs rings. Okay.
8 pounds.
Saints, yeah. This is the rumor, Jerry. Saints Lions week 13. That one's not quite confirmed, but certainly there's a lot of smoke there.
Yeah.
Same thing with Saints Panthers week 14. So that's what we think. And then that would leave 16 and 17. If you have home games in weeks 13, 14, 15, and 18, you would need road games, probably both Christmas Eve, which is week 16, and New Year's Eve, which is week 17. Although, as you said, Jim, some of those games may be played Saturday, the 23rd. But one of those, I think, will be the division game at the Bucs, because that's the only division game out there. So I think they'll be in Tampa Bay one of those nights. All right, we'll have the complete schedule in Monday's Bayou Bets. And as Jim said, plenty to go through: win totals, point spreads, all that kind of stuff. The other 3 games here, the one that jumps out to me, of course, the Bills only favored by a point in Aaron Rodgers' opener. Patriots will be honoring Tom Brady in their home opener against the Eagles, which is interesting. And then the Bears are favored against the Packers.
That's insane.
Aaron Rodgers gone. That's the effect.
That's ridiculously insane. I mean, it just is.
I mean, going to go bet some Green Bay +1?
Well, yeah, because you know why? I guarantee you by the time that game comes comes to be, I mean, it's going to be Green Bay -2. So, I mean, these are the sorts of things you need to go through and figure out what do you think is going to change? Where are you going to get your value? I mean, but that's something where you could probably bet Green Bay +1 now or Green Bay money line now and maybe get the Bears at +3 later. I mean, that's a possibility because when we see that Jordan Love is doing okay in the preseason, the number's going to change. And the Packers, quite frankly, sorry, Zoe, own the Bears over the recent past, and it just is. It just is what it is. And I mean, we all know what I think about Justin Fields, and we're not going to go. Well, I'll save that for my previews coming up in August.
Say what you want about Justin Fields.
I do.
Yes, you do. But this is the Aaron Rodgers effect in both of those lines, right? Like Buffalo only favored by a point against the Jets. Bears favored over the Packers. Like Aaron Rodgers, he's not in Green Bay anymore.
Neither is Toto.
So, all right. That is our NFL schedule release take. We'll check. We'll do a little Twitter check later in the show one more time.
I've been checking. I haven't seen anything new in
Nothing
the last
else
hour.
out there.
Yeah. I got a feeling that's going to be kind of it. We might have, I think last year we had almost all of them. We might have to wait this year.
It's funny. Some full team schedules, like the Packers.
Yeah,
schedule,
a lot of Giants
got leaked real early. Giants I think the Chiefs is out, so you kind of know some of them. I think Jerry just said the Lions is out, so maybe that week 13 is confirmed now.
Yeah.
But we're going to take a few minutes and talk NBA playoffs because it's a big night in the NBA playoffs. Quite frankly, the pre-playoff favorites in each conference, the Celtics and the Nuggets, both play Game 6 tonight. Nuggets can eliminate the Suns, who are going to be without DeAndre Ayton, and of course without Chris Paul. And then the Celtics are fighting for their lives. They're down 3-2 in that series, 2.5-point favorites.
Listen, I wish I would have known they were losing DeAndre Ayton. That might have made me like that might make me like the Suns more. That Ayton's not playing. He's been terrible in this series.
He has not been good.
I mean, to the point of Monty. Good God, take him out. I mean, I'm rooting for the Nuggets. I've got a Nuggets future ticket, not as good as yours, but I've got a Nuggets future ticket too. But I'm like, I love Monty though, and I'm like, Monty, take him out for God's sake. It's been terrible.
Yeah, the only thing is Jock Landale's been better, but you can't.
He has been.
But can you play him 35 minutes a game? I mean, I guess we'll find out.
I don't know. Yeah, he's going to play a good bit tonight.
Yep. And then actually, it's funny. We'll show the series prices here. All 4 series going to a 6th game, and so that means all 4 potentially could be in a 7th game situation. Although tomorrow you see the Knicks.
That's the NBA for you.
The Heat and the Lakers both have a chance to close things out at home tomorrow. I know you said you kind of like the Celtics series line, Jim.
Yeah, it's our daily best bet. Actually, it's a weird one. We haven't done. I don't know that we've done one like this before in daily best bets, but I think if the Celtics win tonight, then they're not losing at home. I know they have. I know they have already, but you're going to be like -300 in a potential game 7. So. It was either -130 tonight, which I like them to win tonight. But I think if they're going to win tonight, they're going to win the next one. I'd rather take the +145. So it's my second favorite pick of these entire playoffs. My top pick won last night. And I know you kind of called it a cop-out a little bit, but I just didn't think – I thought there was no way Golden State was losing last night. I didn't love the 7.5 number because I could see me putting this big chunk down on – Golden State -7.5, and then they win by 7 with some fluky stuff at the end. I mean, we've all seen it before, right? So I'll just eat the -300, put a huge chunk on the money line, and bet a lot to win a little. And I thought it was like free money, and it turned out to be. So that was my best bet.
Warriors -14.5 alt spread, so I had a bigger sweat than you did, but they did win by 15, so they got there for me.
Got those little free throws, I think, at the end, huh?
It was going to be a real bad beat because there was like a weird foul called, and then it was to the point where the Warriors were going to be able to dribble out the clock, but they turned it over on an 8-second call, and so the Lakers got it back and another chance to score, and they got fouled, but luckily only made 1 free.
That's the interesting one to me. Again, I would say this. I don't feel as strongly, but I will say this, and I know the Warriors have been terrible on the road, so it's hard to be confident they're going to win. I still think they're the better team. I really do. And if you think they're going to win Game 6, they're going to win Game 7. If they win Game 6,
AD's 100%. That's
what with that. By the way, what was? I mean, he got a little forearm to the face, and the next thing you know, he's wobbling his way to the locker room. I'm sorry, this dude is not an elite player. He just not when he's in there and he plays great. I mean, he's starting to bring up, and he's about 8 years older. He's starting to look like Zion. I mean, you can't count on him.
Series. He has been the best player in this.
There's
series.
no question, but you don't know when he's going to go out. He could go out at any time. He literally could leave at any time, and you don't know when he's going to leave. And
you wonder, like, is that a concussion? Like the Lakers said, hey, concussion protocol. We have to take you back.
Oh no, he wanted to go back.
But he was clearly not feeling well.
Oh no,
I don't know. I mean, headshots are a serious thing, but I agree with you. I think plus 185 on the Warriors is definitely worth a look.
How many of the other 20 plus players on that court, if that happens to them, go walk to the locker room? Zero.
What do we think about the Knicks at plus 330?
I don't.
I don't. I mean, if they win in Miami,
not touching that
home for a game 7, but
not beating Jimmy buckets.
I wouldn't think so.
I'm not touching the Knicks or the Suns. I think the Nuggets are the best team remaining. Period. I think they're the best team of the 8 teams that are remaining. I think the Nuggets are the best. So I'm not touching the Suns. And I know some people think just because it's the Suns they're going to come back and win this thing. I don't think so. I think they lose this one. Frankly, although I think one of our best bets is Devin Booker. I think Devin Booker is going to have I think this is going to be a great classic game that could go down to the wire, like maybe even overtime kind of thing. But I'm not touching the Suns and I'm not touching the Knicks.
MVP in his Gatorade commercial. That's low, L. Right? That's low. All right. My thought is this.
I'm not going to be harsh when it comes to a 22-year-old. If he still looks like this in a few years, then I'll jump on the boat.
Next year's a big year for Zion. Let's put it that way. And we got more to talk about in the Pelicans in a second. But here's my thoughts. One is that we are going to find out if the Celtics and Nuggets are truly the NBA favorites tonight. We may find out who the favorite is. Can Denver go on the road and win a tough game and close this thing out and avoid a game 7?
I agree.
Can the Celtics step up? I mean, we're going to see tonight. Tonight, to me, is the first night of the NBA playoffs where I'm like,
one of those series is going to be over tonight. I think it's going to be the Denver Phoenix series, but I think one of them is going to.
Yeah, could be both.
But we know how the NBA loves their game 7s. Just saying.
You say that there was only one in the first round, right?
Just saying. Well, I mean, this is different. I mean, these are a little bit more highlighted kind of teams. You're talking about the Knicks, Warriors, Lakers, Sixers, Celtics, Suns in there. I mean, the only two teams that aren't like darlings of the NBA pretty much are the Heat and Nuggets, and I think they might be the best 2 teams left.
The other thing I'll say about the Celtics is this: in their run to the finals last year, home court did not mean a terrible amount to that team. They lost game 5 at home against the Bucks. Similar situation to this. Then went and won game 6 on the road and won the series in 7. And then in the Eastern Conference Finals, they lost game 6 at home in a closeout opportunity, but then beat Miami on the road in game 7. And then they won a game at Golden State, but lost a couple of home games. Like, they're the one team that they can take care of business on the road, maybe more than other teams can.
This is not official, but a reputable source wrote this. I saw this. The Celtics have more series victories down 3-2 than any other franchise in the NBA. Now, granted, they have more titles than almost everyone else, or more. Is it more than everyone else? They have more than Lakers.
They do, yeah, sure.
Okay, so take that with a grain of salt, but they have more series victories down 3-2 than any other franchise in the NBA. So I think there's a good chance they do it here.
All right. The hometown NBA franchise, the Pelicans, got, I don't know if it's bad news for them or not, but the news is actually from the Phoenix Suns, who tried to put their home games on network television and streaming, and like basically making it free because the kind of like the Pelicans are partnered with Bally Sports. The Suns were partnered with a group called the Diamond Sports Group, and the Suns Diamond Sports Group went bankrupt, just like Bally, and so the Suns said, and the Phoenix Mercury of the WNBA said, hey, we're just going to go start our own streaming network. We're going to put some of the games on TV and we're going to stream them, and you can watch them for free. And a U.S. bankruptcy judge said, no, you can't. Just because Diamond Sports Group is bankrupt, and Diamond Sports Group and Bally are actually the same thing. I apologize. They're Sinclair, which runs Bally Sports, is a subsidiary of Diamond Sports Group. So that's the confusion. So the Pelicans are in exactly the same boat as the Suns. They're not going to be able to do something like that, which our Christian Clark said a couple of weeks ago. This is exactly what the Pelicans should do. And Jim, I know you disagree with me. I think Pelicans fans are in a terrible spot because you either got to have Cox to watch their games, or you get, when we all know Cox TV is more expensive, less reliable than some of the streaming networks, or you've got to stream it through the Bally Sports app.
You can also have Direct TV, I believe.
Is Bally?
It's on it's on Direct TV as well.
But if you're a streamer like I am, YouTube,
and
TV,
I am,
you can't get it unless you or Sling or any of the other ones. Hulu, any of them.
I think you can get it on DirecTV and DirecTV Stream. Other than that, you are right. I think that's the only one at the moment.
And their app is terrible quality and charges you an insane, to me, $20 a month. That's more than Netflix to watch just one NBA team.
It's actually not more than Netflix, by the way. If you extrapolate that out over the course of a year, it's the same price as Netflix.
I'm talking about per month. All right, but you're only going to get it for 6 months. So it's actually. Why would you do it for a whole year?
You're going to pay for Netflix for a whole year, right? So if you, at the end of the year, when you do your bills and you go back and look and see how much you paid for your bills, you spent exactly the same amount. You spent $120 on the Pelicans, and you spent $120 on Netflix. Actually, Netflix is more than
but you
$10
got to
a
watch
month.
Netflix all year. You don't give Bally Sports credit because you didn't get any content for half.
Okay, regardless of all this. First, by the way, shout out to Zoe who said the Lakers and Celtics have both won 16 titles. So that back to what we were talking about for a second.
You can get Netflix for $7 a month if you're willing to put up with ads. $10 a month otherwise.
You got to be you know what kind of cheap ass you got to be to pay $7 instead of 10 and watch ads. You know what kind of cheapskate you get? Then that goes into cheapskate here. I mean, if you're gonna bitch about $20 a month to watch your team play basketball, 10 games a month or 12 games a month? So you're talking about what, $1.80 a game? If you're gonna bitch about that, you are a cheap ass. I'm sorry, you are. You want to. So one of us won $100,000 this year, and it ain't me. And you're complaining about $20 a month to watch the Pelicans. Give me a break.
Jim, I paid the $20 a month.
So
wasn't
did
really
I.
happy about it, but I did it. But I'm not worried about me. I'm worried about the average fan in Algiers.
No, you're not.
$20 extra a month.
No, you're not.
Yes, I am.
You are not worried about the average fan in Algiers.
Who do you think we're talking about?
When that thing comes out and you get your little notification that Bally Sports was paid $19.99, you're shaking your head going, GD, I can't believe I just had to pay. You'd probably do that every single month, and you're not talking about GD, the guy in Algiers had to pay $19.99 again. You're not doing that. Give me a break.
I think it is a disservice to the fans. I think the franchise is not growing its fan base like it could because of this deal. And basically now with the Suns, this bankruptcy ruling, the Pelicans are stuck.
This is a corporation or a company, a broadcast company, whatever the hell you want to call them, that's already going bankrupt. And what do you want them to do? You want them to lose more money and give it to you cheaper? I don't understand what you're suggesting.
I want Bally to go away. I hate Bally. It's a terrible product.
Well, then complain about the Pelicans because they're the one, or the NBA, whoever signed this deal. Complain with the ones who signed this deal that knew that this was going to happen.
Believe me, the Pelicans are at blame here also. They should not have signed that deal. There's no way they should have signed that deal. It's a disservice to their fans. 100%.
Okay. And Zoe says, by the way, Netflix Premium is $19.99. So I don't even know what the I don't watch a whole lot of Netflix, I got to be honest. So I don't know what the difference is between Netflix Premium and Netflix. I mean, I know Amazon Prime isn't cheap. It's expensive, and I complain about Amazon Prime a lot to my wife. I'm like, why are we paying all this? Because we order from Amazon like 2-3 times a week. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, then that makes sense.
I believe that the premium means you can stream it to more places.
Okay.
So I don't know. I don't know unless you had a huge family with
Look,
a bunch of different devices.
All I know is basically when you break it down, there are 41 home games, and if 30 of the let's be conservative and say 35 of them are on Bally's. Okay, I'm no mathematician, but over the course of 6 months, you're going to get, or however many months the basketball season lasts, it's going to cost you $120. So you're talking about what, $350 a game, $325, $350 a game to watch a game. I mean, come on. We waste more money when we go to, I don't know, a Big Mac costs more than $350. I mean, so let's stop complaining about things that don't need to be complained about. I mean, that's not an absurd amount for anyone. And Joe Q Public in Algiers, I guarantee you it's somewhere along the line and over the course of 6 months, probably buy 6 Big Macs. So they can either not buy a Big Mac and eat a sandwich that day, or I don't know, and watch the Pelicans, or they can not watch the Pelicans and buy their Big Mac. Some people have to make choices in life. It's just about a lot of things.
Jim, your math here, where you're saying it only comes down to $3 a game. What's $3 a game? It's a Big Mac. People don't watch every game. Nobody can watch. Who watches every single game of an NBA season?
I think I watched every Pelicans game this year, except maybe one or two.
It's your job.
I think most people who are going to get this, not everybody, I think most people going to get this are going to watch 80 to 90% of these games. Okay, let's make it $5 a game and just be conservative. I think the majority, give me a break.
Given the market for streaming, $5 a game is absurd.
You're absurd. If you think $5 a game is absurd.
$6 a month.
Ooh.
And ESPN Plus has hundreds of games.
Okay, well then you take your money, okay, and you don't get ESPN Plus, or you make a decision. We all have to make a decision in life on what we want to spend our money. We have a budget. If we would rather have Pelicans games over ESPN Plus, then do one or the other. I mean, I have to make this. I have to cut things out all the time.
You should be able to get both for $20 a month. I'm just saying, given the market that I can get Netflix with thousands of movies and shows for half of that.
I think Zoe's on my side. She said a Big Mac costs $4. I don't even know how much a Big Mac costs. I haven't bought one in a while. I know that's hard to believe looking at it.
Why are we comparing it to Big Mac?
I just brought up Big Mac. Go to Subway, okay? I mean, you're seeing Subway on TV all the time. I know. People were complaining
at the sandwiches, Jim.
Compare it to anything. Compare it to anything. People go to Raising Cane's that were complaining about how much it costs for a Caniac. It's $14 now. But people who don't have a lot of money still go buy a Caniac, I bet. That's $14. Oh, I could have watched 3 weeks of Pelicans basketball for that. I think I'll just eat a grilled cheese sandwich.
Why? I bought 4 bags of sand to weigh down my kid's basketball hoop at Home Depot this morning. That cost $20. Why am I comparing that to watching the Pelicans?
You can compare it to anything you want to compare it to. Compare it to going to the zoo if you want to compare it, which is absurd, by the way.
I want to compare it to things that are comparable, other things I can buy.
Netflix isn't comparable. It's two completely different things. You're talking about movies and TV. I don't even watch movies and TV hardly at all.
You were comparing it to Big Macs, and now you're complaining about me comparing it to Netflix?
Okay, compare it to the price of YouTube TV if you want. Compare it to whatever you want. It's not ridiculous. You can jump whatever shark you want. $4 a game or whatever, $3.25 or $4 or $5 or whatever price you want to call it to watch a basketball game, in my opinion, if you want to watch the basketball game, is not that much. And it's actually less than that because it's $20 a month. And there's definitely at least 2 games on a week. So my Shaw math has failed me again. But whatever it is, however many games you watch, if you watch 1 game a week, 2 games a week, 3 games a week, it's worth $3, $4, $5 to watch a game. And if you don't think so, don't get it.
It's pretty simple. I get it because it's my job to watch those games. But when I look,
but you wouldn't get it out of principle if you didn't have to.
When I look at all the streaming services that I buy at the end of the month and all the bills, and the highest bill of any of them for Peacock, for Paramount Plus, for Netflix, for Hulu, ESPN Plus, Disney Plus, the highest bill for any of them is Bally Sports. That
then don't get it.
Show me a Pelicans game without freezing. Get out of here.
You don't like it? Don't get it.
It's
pretty simple.
Probably won't next year.
All right,
I'm not supporting that crap. All right. Speaking of rants,
You're
here's a
insane.
positive rant for you. We're going to circle this back to the Saints in the NFL. And I got to say, and look, May optimism reigns supreme in the NFL. Everyone thinks their team is going to be good in May. And I'm not even a Saints fan, but they are the team I cover. And I think they're going to be really good. And I'm starting to get awfully optimistic about it. And I don't want to jinx it or anything. But I think Foster Moreau was exactly the sort of way they should be spending the rest of the cap room that they have. He is a put your hand in the ground, block tight end, good in the red zone, fills the hole well. This is a team, if you look up and down the roster, it's pretty hard to find a hole. I don't know that they're super elite at any category, but they're a very solid team, a very solid roster. And you combine that with the weak schedule that we've talked about today. And I'm starting to see this Saints team as not only a division contender, but maybe a contender to win a couple of playoff games and keep us talking well into 2024.
Well, usually we have a response to the rant, but my response is actually my own rant. So I will say this: I don't necessarily disagree with you. I think it's easy to be optimistic about this. You look at this schedule, and but if you don't live in New Orleans and you're just betting over unders, I was going through. I don't know why I spent 30 minutes going through social media and yesterday getting people's opinions on over-unders. But I did. And most people outside of New Orleans think the Saints are going to be a sub 500 team. And that's putting it nicely. I can't use a lot of the words that they used here on the show. If I had to bet right now, if someone said, okay, here's $100 and you got to make a bet right now, would you take the over or the under? I would take the over. However, we've been through this thing before. We went into last year, thinking and I said it. I was guilty. I was one of the ones that said this. There is no way. How in the world is this team not going to win 7.5 games? Okay, 8.5. How in the world are they not going to win 8.5 games in this division against these opponents? Blah, 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 blah. I get who the opponents are. I think a lot of these teams that are on the Saints schedule are going to be a lot better than they were last year, frankly. I think Chicago is going to be better, and that's not I'm not trying to blow smoke. I think Detroit is going to be obviously better, not as good as everyone thinks they're going to be. I think Minnesota is going to be better than people think they're going to be. Green Bay, the same thing. I don't think they're going to lose all that much with Jordan Love as quarterback. I think Houston's going to be much better. I think Jacksonville is going to be a contender for the AFC Championship game. Everyone hates Tennessee. I think they're a 500 type team, and they certainly have a great running game, which the Saints have lacked in doing well against. Indianapolis, who knows what the heck they're going to be. But you go through all these teams, and I know you can talk about how easy the schedule is supposed to be, but 9.5 wins, that's saying they're going to win 10. And winning 10 games in the NFL, no matter who you play, is not an easy thing to do. How tough is the transition going to be to Derek Carr? How much is Alvin Kamara going to take away from this team? Because not only is he going to be gone, but the fact that we're going to be sitting here talking about this week after, people, I don't think you can realize this, but we're going to be talking about this week after week after week coming up very shortly. That's what we're going to be talking about. So how much is that going to weigh on this team? Because they're going to hear it. They might not want to hear it. They might say they don't read the paper and they don't listen to podcasts, but they're full of crap because they do. And they're going to hear it over and over again. How much is it going to weigh on them? I don't know the answer to all that. How much is Dennis Allen calling the defense now, actually calling the defense, going to help? We don't know the answer to that. So while I think they are going to be a better team, while I think they should be the favorite to win the NFC South, that doesn't mean I'm jumping over hand and foot to get to my phone so I can bet the over 9.5. Let's go through this thing logically. Let's take the summer. Let's look through some. I'm not going to be betting it in May. I can tell you that. I'm going to be doing some research and looking at it. We'll make a decision in the next month and a half to 2 months, but I'm certainly not giddy is not a word I would use for sure, but there is reason to be optimistic.
Yeah, I think so. And as I said, May optimism is dangerous, and everybody seems to have it. I'm not sure what this comment, since the comments are off on the Derek Carr clip from the line.
They must have turned the comments off.
First question of why he came has already been answered ad nauseum. Okay. Yeah, look, this is an intro video.
Get out of here.
Get into plenty more.
What question would you ask first? That is exactly the first question you're going to ask.
In all seriousness,
give me a break.
In all seriousness, we're going to take questions from people. I'm not saying we're going to use all of them, but if you've got a good question to ask, I will ask Derek that question, and we will print it the next week. So if you've got good questions, let us know. And believe me, this is an intro video. There's
let me guess. You would ask, how many interceptions did you throw, and how are you going to stop throwing those interceptions now? You're a Derek Carr hater. I can see it already. Let's move on.
Plenty more to
get
come.
out of here.
All right, Jim. Hey. She doesn't. She might work for Bally Sports. You might actually want it to.
That's maybe and her company's bankrupt, and she doesn't have any money, and she doesn't know whether to subscribe to her own service or not, or whether to subscribe to Netflix. I mean, she's got a tough decision to make.
And had to pay $20 a month to watch the Pelicans play.
And maybe she couldn't afford to eat a Big Mac last night. Who knows?
So go easy. All right. Hey, NOLA nerds, seriously, ask your questions. Leave. We're going to email me zewing@theadvocate.com. We will get to those questions once the season starts. All right, that's our show for today. We'll be back on Monday at 4:00. We are going to talk the full schedule. We're going to have lots more point spreads to talk about. We could actually give you a Saints projected record based on how many games they're favored in, which is going to be.
We can do that tomorrow morning, by the way.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And we'll tomorrow morning Datitude. Sure, Jim.
Yeah. I mean, tomorrow morning's Datitude. We're going to have TP alum, Times-Picayune alum, one of the top baseball writers in the country, Derek Gould, who is the Cardinals beat writer for the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. We're going to talk about what he thinks about all the changes, the rules changes. I think most people like them. We're going to talk about the what we think about baseball and where we are, because both his Cardinals and my Cubs stink. So I don't know how much we're going to talk about that. And then after he's done, we're going to have him on for about 15, 20 minutes. Zach, you're going to come on and we're going to dive into the official schedule. We will know it by then. We'll start going through maybe games, wins and losses, what we think. And, that'll be on the show in the morning, and looking forward to talking about that.
Yep. And then Monday on Bayou Bets, we will talk more about that. Probably have a few more point spreads out by that time.
PGA Championship.
And we will talk PGA Championship, which is next week. So good show lined
up. We'll know the NBA conference finals by then.
Is there might be Game 7 that's Monday night, or
I thought they were all Sunday. I could be wrong.
Right. I think they're all Sunday. So we'll have NBA Final Four as well. So we'll see you guys 4:00 on Monday and 9:15 tomorrow morning for Datitude with Jim. And I'll make an appearance as well.
All right, go get your Big Mac.
Until then, Egg McMuffin, man. It's early.
Okay.
Egg McMuffin. But I got to check the bank account. All right. For our
you do. Yeah,
Zoe,
you do.
And for Jim Terry, I'm Zach Ewing. And we'll see you.